Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a run through of my Ace Frehley and KISS CD collection. So unfortunately, we just had the passing of Ace Frehley very unexpectedly at age of 74. Being the original KISS guitarist, he has a lot of recordings with KISS, but also outside. He appeared on 10 studio albums with KISS and he made 10 studio albums himself. So 20 albums overall, studio recording wise, but myself, in my collection, I have 42 albums to run through with you guys. We're going to get into it here in just a bit, break it all down, talk about each one. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this, where I'm running through my Ace Frehley and KISS CD collection. So I'm going to do this chronologically. And while there are many albums that I'm not going to show you within this, especially from the KISS world, where some Ace Frehley material might appear on it, I decided to just focus on the albums that have Ace entirely, meaning that if it's like a compilation, it's just from the period when Ace was in the band, and it's not a bigger compilation that covers all the eras of KISS. So that's what we've got here, and there's 42 albums to go through, and we're going to kick off with the debut album, self-titled KISS, from 1974. This thing making waves right when it hit. Just something completely different, not what everyone was expecting, this band in kabuki makeup like this, and we get Ace Frehley right there. Fantastic way to start things off. Though the album wasn't a huge seller right from the get-go, many of these songs would continue to be some of the biggest ones in KISS's catalog. We then get Hotter Than Hell. This was also 1974. Amazing to get two albums from KISS in the same year. Wish I was alive at that time and joined the band. I had not yet been born. I wasn't born until 76, but became a lifelong KISS fan in 1992 with the Revenge album, going backwards, finding my love for KISS, and of course, Ace Frehley after that. But great album, same thing, so many great songs on these early albums that would just become staples, including their next one, Dressed to Kill in 1975, which incidentally, this year, we are getting a deluxe edition box set of, celebrating its 50th anniversary. Currently listed as October 24th release date. Don't think it's actually coming out that quick because it was only announced a week earlier. But we will hopefully see it sometime this year, probably more likely November, early December. But anyways, this being the album that had Rock and Roll All Night, the studio version. Of course, it would go on to become even bigger on the Alive album. This being a box set of 4 of their albums, the first 3 Alive albums, so Alive 1 and Alive 2, obviously being the ones with Ace Frehley, and Alive 2 having the studio side of the album on it, which I thought was absolutely killer to get new studio material with that. But then we get the Millennium Concert, which is part of this, which was intended to be a Live 4, and I think should have been a Live 4. Instead, though, the band shelved that album, later getting its release here, but instead went with KISS recording with a symphony orchestra as a Live 4. Cool, unique, I guess, but did not make the big impact that I think the Millennium Concert would have made. So I have mine as part of this box set, so that's where those are. But of course, following Alive, the big breakthrough album that they would do, they returned with Destroyer, this being one of the remastered editions. I've not needed to open it because I have so many copies. I would later get this resurrected edition, having the original album art on it that was not shown on this one here. So should have looked like that. And again, having some slightly different mix to this, because we got a different guitar solo on Sweet Pain on this album. Again, making that slightly different. And then we did get a deluxe edition box set, which I have, this being the 2-disc selections from album remastered, plus the second disc having a bunch of bonus tracks on it. So as I said, I've got enough versions of Destroyer 4 right now. Probably had a 5th one at one point, an earlier version that wasn't remastered, but got that. One of my favorite Kiss albums with Ace, Rock and Roll Over. Love this one here. This came out in 76, the year I was born, kicking off with I Want You, Take Me, Call Dr. Love. So many good songs on this one here. Love Gun, which is my overall favorite Kiss album of the original era. This has Shock Me on it, which was first time Ace was taking vocals and really coming into his own with this. And of course, going forward, Ace would be taking vocals on each of the albums thereafter. But so many good tunes. I Stole Your Love, Christine 16, the song Shock Me, Love Gun, Hooligan, Plaster Caster. Oh, so many good ones on there. And we did get a 2 CD deluxe edition, not a box set though, but we did get the bonus CD with demos and live and even some interview stuff related on that. The band would start doing off the soundboard recordings, official bootleg recordings, not too long ago. This one here, I'm looking to see if I can see a year on it. I don't, but they did release the 1977 Des Moines, Iowa live show, where this has not been noodled around with the way that the Alive albums has. And if you want a warts and all live recording, this here will really tell you what they sounded like, unlike the Alive 1 and 2, which were almost studio done because there was so much studio trickery and touch-ups and re-recordings and audience noise and things added to it. It's not really live. But this here is that. At this point, there's, turmoil in the band, and Ace and Peter talking about leaving and wanting to go out on their own. And the band says, you know what? Why don't we all take a break and do a solo album? And it kept everybody happy for a while. Unfortunately, it wouldn't last forever, but we did get the absolute fantastic debut solo album from Ace Frehley, and it became the best-selling out of all of the 4 solo albums that would get released, having the biggest hit off of here, New York Groove, the cover that he would do, but songs like Rip It Out, Snowblind, Ozone, really, really great tracks. Plus, we got the first Fractured Mirror instrumental that he would do other versions of Fractured later on, I think doing up to 4 versions total that had that title in it. And we did get a best of the 4 solo albums, for which we get 4 songs from Ace Frehley appearing with the other guys on that album. And they would do double platinum, their first collection. So these all being songs from that early era of Kiss with Ace Frehley. Now, this is a highly, highly underrated album that I absolutely love. Dynasty. It's really their disco rock album. I Was Made for Loving You, but we get the fantastic 2000 Man, the cover of the Rolling Stones song on here that Ace would sing. Sure Knows Something, Dirty Livin', lots of great stuff off of that. Ace is sticking around for a couple more, though he's not fully involved. We do get Unmasked, where he sings 3 songs on here. I think it's probably the most sung songs on a Kiss album. Really great stuff. Talk to Me, Two Sides of the Coin, and I think it's Torpedo Girl, if I'm not mistaken. I think those are the 3. And then we do The Elder, which I know he was very little involved with the album, but still a member at this time. The concept album that really didn't go over like gangbusters the way they thought it might. We get a European compilation called Killers. I know this was not released in the US. I have a Japanese edition, but understand that there is also European edition CDs of this version out there. 4 new songs were recorded for this or released as part of this, making this a very cool collection of songs. But Ace Frehley decides to leave, and even though he turns up on the Creatures of the Night album cover, he does not play on it, so not an Ace album, thereby not including it here. And that would be between the music from The Elder 1981 and the release of his first, I still call it a solo album, but Frehley's Comet this was 1987, so 6 years. I don't know why it took so long, other though he was, really into drinking. I don't know if he was doing any drugs or whatnot, but I'm sure that played a big part in him not being able to get his act together, so to speak. But when you quit a band because you're not happy and you want to go off and do your own thing, but you never actually go off and do your own thing, leaves a little bit to be desired. But obviously that's, case in point to something that Paul and Gene were always referencing and talking about. Though we finally do get his first solo material after the 1978 solo album, but outside of KISS, we get this in 87, Rock Soldiers, Breakout, Into the Night, some really great stuff, Stranger in a Strange Land. We get Fractured 2 on here. It's actually 2 as an also, but it is the second one. So we do get that. We get Live +1, so 4 live songs plus 1 new studio recording. Release an EP that was very cool. Glad to get that. Second sighting, we get the last of the Frehley's Comet albums as the band Frehley's Comet. And following that was 1988. We would get Trouble Walkin' in 1989. This is being released, and what's kind of interesting about this one is he does a cover of the song Hide Your Heart, which was a KISS song that would turn up on the Hot in the Shade album. So both KISS and Ace Frehley put that out at the same time. I actually like Ace's version, I think, better than the more polished KISS Paul Stanley sung version, but this one being a true Ace Frehley solo album with him singing all of the songs on here. And we get Fractured 3 on here, so the third time he does an instrumental and ends the album with it. Always kind of wish we had gotten an Ace Frehley all instrumental album. He was not really known for shredding and that kind of stuff, but I still would have loved to have gotten that. Maybe there's enough stuff in the archive that they could take all of the different fractureds and instrumentals, put them together and add some things from the vault and get it. I don't know, but I always kind of wish that there'd be enough versions of Fractured recorded throughout his career to one day warrant releasing, say, 10-track album called Fractured that's Fractured, Fractured 2, Fractured 3, Fractured. I think the next one might be called Quantum, and so forth and so on. Still, we may see that one day. That's a kind of a pipe dream at this point with his passing, unfortunately. Now, Ace Frehley at first just guessed with KISS on the Unplugged, and even though he's not fully on this, because this was the impetus for the reunion, I decided to go ahead and put it in here and call it out, because man, I know I was over the moon watching the Unplugged when it happened. It had been rumored, we all knew it was coming. It had been, I think, even advertised leading up to that point, but still didn't dissipate any of the excitement when the 2 other guys, Peter Criss, Ace Frehley, walk out on stage, and we have a reunion of the 4 original guys. Very cool when that took place and transpired. And I guess it's sort of a stopgap to tide us over. We got the album, You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best. And it had 4 songs each from Alive and 4 songs from Alive 2 and 4 unreleased songs that were not included on those albums for a total of 12 tracks. So it was cool to get a compilation of the live albums, but also having some stuff that didn't make those recordings made this feel very special getting it at the time. I remember going to a midnight release to get it. Anything KISS was putting out at that time was a hot commodity. And then again, as part of those soundboard recordings, we would later get Live at Donington, the Monsters of Rock 1996 performance. So this is the reunion era of the band. One of those, soundboard recordings, warts and all. Very good quality, but not doctored, which is great. We would get KISS Greatest, just covering that early era of the band, the 4 original members. Plus it has Shout It Out Loud on here. This is a video version which had audience sounds added to it to make it sound like a live song, even though it was actually the studio song with screaming track added to it. But that is the last track on here, and it was they made a video from their live performances to put that out to promote the reunion. So that appeared on here, getting that track. And again, because KISS was such a hot commodity at that time, that Ace was cashing in on it too, and he put out 12 picks. So guitar picks, but also picks of songs. And these were from his solo stuff and live recordings. And so we got some songs like Rocket Ride and Shock Me and stuff like that. But we also got the studio songs from his first 3 studio albums. And that did so well. They followed it up with Loaded Deck. And because he had songs, Ace, the card, right? But also he had a song called 5 Card Stud and some other ones like that. So it sort of tied into it. And we get some other, recordings, but we also get the songs Fractured 2 and 3 on here. We didn't get Fractured on here because that one would have been a licensing requirement from the band KISS, but still get those ending it out, which was kind of a cool thing. And then we get Greatest Hits Live, which has the 4 live songs from the Live +1, but then we add in a bunch of other live recordings and things, and I think those were technically unreleased at that point, some having turned up on those other compilations, but this is 12 tracks of live recordings, but we also get 1+1 and Give It To Me Anyway studio recordings at the end of this, which was very cool, and of course that being the picture from the Live +1 recording as well, and this being 3D hologram type album cover was also a very cool thing. That was Megaforce, his original label, cashing in on that stuff. But we lead up into, I believe it's 1998, and we get the reunion album, Psycho Circus. We get one Ace Frehley sung and written song, Into the Void, which I think was the best song off of the album, the most KISS sounding song. The rest of the stuff really sounded like 90s era KISS, what you would have expected. I like it. It's a good album, but you could tell they were really trying to write the hit, to write the song that would be the anthem. We've got songs like A Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock and Roll. We've got one called Raise Your Glasses. I Finally Found My Way, Dreamin'. Psycho Circus remained in their set, I believe, all the way until the very end, which is a very cool that the song had a big enough impact, but the band believed in it enough to keep playing it long after. And then we get this one here, another soundboard recording from 2001, right before Ace would leave. And it's a very short-lived lineup where Ace was still in the band and we had Eric Singer on drums. So very short-lived lineup of that, never recording any studio material together, but we do get this live album from Tokyo, Japan. That's a 2 CD set. The band would put out these Millennium collections, and while there are 3 of these, this one focuses on the 70s era of the band and the 4 original guys. So I'm showing you this one. The middle one follows the 80s era. Of course, Ace not part of it, but the one that's for the 90s does have some Ace material. I'm just not throwing it in here because it's not fully an Ace album. We get KISS Icons, which is a cool little 4 CD box set, even though it's in this little slimline thing here. And it's basically each of the 4 members get their own best of collection, and we get a best of Ace Frehley in here that not only draws from his 78 solo album, but the solo sung songs, or solo sung, lead vocal sung songs that he did on the albums, the KISS albums. So very cool collection. Wanted to include that in here because it's certainly from his time frame. But then Ace is out on his own, and he finally returns with a new studio solo album after like 20 years of not having one. We get this, I think it's in, is it 2000? No, I don't know what year this is, when he finally does this return. Let's see. Let's go dig this up. It's got to be in here. 2009. So from 78, then 87, stops in 89, 2009, so 20 years. 20 years since a solo album from Ace Frehley, we finally get Anomaly. And this is kind of a cool thing that opens up and it folds out and makes this weird looking thing. So it was this cardboard kind of weird packaging thing. I would later buy the deluxe edition of it, which had 3 extra tracks on it, but also just being in a digipack, making it so much easier to operate. We get the song Hard For Me, Pain in the Neck, a slower version, and Return of Space Bear, which I think is an instrumental that's on here. Didn't call it, Fractured, but we get Fractured Quantum on this one. So that's the 4th version of Fractured that he would do. Really great one. We get Space Invader. This one here came with 2 bonus tracks on it. And I don't think there was a version of Quantum at all on this or a reference to it in any way. Can't remember, though, if there was actually an instrumental or not on that one. But that was 2014. And then Ace started a series called Origins. And this is volume 1 from 2016, and it's all cover songs. This one here has Paul Stanley guesting on it and singing with him. I forget which song he's on, but he's on here, and I thought that was a pretty cool thing to have him just showing that the guys could get along, even if he's not in the band anymore. But he started doing these, and he basically started doing one after every studio album. So next up, he makes one of my favorite ones, Spaceman, and Gene Simmons guests on this one. So again, a very cool crossover there. And we get Quantum Flux. So we're up to like the 5th Quantum song. We could certainly get an EP of Quantum songs, at least, because there's 5 of those. We get our next Origins 2 in 2020, another great one here. And we get, following this collection of songs, we get his final studio album, 10,000 Volts, made together with Steve Brown of Trickster. And they co-wrote the album together, and Steve Brown is all over this playing. And a lot of people have said, myself included, it's really a Steve Brown solo album with Ace Frehley singing and guesting on it, because it sounds like a Steve Brown album, except that Ace is singing. It's a great album, and I gotta say, with Ace's passing, and I'm giving it a new listen, I'm really enjoying it much more, though it doesn't really sound like an Ace solo album other than he is singing on it. And we do get another instrumental called Stratosphere. It doesn't follow the Quantum terminology, but it is in that same style and vein, that more acoustic, clean guitar sound style that he does those Quantum ones in. So we have a 6th song from this of Ace doing instrumental. They could probably dig up some other stuff, guitar solos from live shows or whatever, and work them together to get us to 9 or 10 tracks. Maybe we'll see that. One can only kind of hope and want at this point, but I'm quite sure with his passing that probably not only are we going to get some cool Ace archival things, and I believe that he was working on, and I think might have even finished, Origins Volume 3. I hope he had finished it, because I know that was next in the series that he was doing. Hopefully that has been completed, or is enough completed that we will be able to get that. But I would venture a guess that we will get some cool archival things from Ace. We might even get a cool archival release from KISS, a best of Ace Frehley years type thing with him singing, kind of like that Icons. I hope so. I hope they could see it past their egos to put something like that out for Ace in tribute to him, even though it isn't going to have the other guys as the lead person on it. But wait and see what happens. But there you go. That is my KISS and Ace Frehley collection of 42 different albums covering the different 20 studio albums that Ace would record in his lifetime. But obviously a lot more cool stuff outside of that. And there's even more cool stuff beyond this that he is part of. But these albums here are ones that he is fully part of. And certainly with that in mind, I hope you celebrate Ace Frehley, pull out all your cool Kiss and Ace solo stuff, enjoy it, celebrate, the gift that he gave us of his music, and certainly he's going to be long remembered after his passing here. Rest in peace, Ace Frehley. You will be missed, but never forgotten.